Monmouth, set on the ancient border of Offa's Dyke in South Wales. Here, in 1387, Henry V, King of England, was born at Monmouth Castle. And now, to commemorate the 6th centenary of his birth, the people of Monmouth are participating in a unique event, a play to celebrate the history of Monmouth and its people, Bordertown. The spectacular play, set in the beautiful interior of St. Mary's Church, was in rehearsal for many weeks. Planning the mammoth event has taken much longer. Jane Harvey, chairman of Monmouth Arts Projects, starts the story.
Well, it started, the idea was first came to my notice in about May '85, when two things happened. First of all, I was mayor for the year '84-'85, and I received a letter, actually from Terry Dauncey, who's also very involved with the project, pointing out that, excuse me, that it was going to be 600 years in 1987 since Henry V was born in Monmouth. And at the same time, because I was president through being mayor of the festival committee, I became aware that they were also aware that it was, and were in fact making plans to celebrate it. And as a result of initial talks between the festival committee, Terry, myself, and Hugo Perks of the South East Wales Arts Association, we held a public meeting in September 1985. And from that, a committee really appointed itself. We took anybody from the meeting, which was about 50 people turned up, I think. And anyone who was interested in taking it further was elected pretty well. And we finally, towards the end of '85, came down to the idea that what we wanted was some kind of community play on the lines, very vaguely, of the sort that are done by Angelico and the Colway Theatre Trust down in Dorset and the Southwest. Several of the group had seen, including myself, had seen several of these plays, and we actually approached the Colway Theatre Trust for advice. And in January '86, John Aram, who's the present director, came up for a weekend and gave us quite a lot of very helpful advice on how we should proceed. Shortly after that, we talked to Charlie Way, who was everybody's first choice because we all knew his work and he lived locally, and he agreed that he would take it on. He agreed even before he knew we had the money to pay him, which was, I think, an act of faith on his part.
I started on the play in September of last year. working in Monmouth Library, meeting local people who came in to the library, telling them about the play, telling them about the project and what the idea behind it was, and that it had been started from within the town, and that I wanted to write a play about the community of Monmouth rather than Henry V himself. And that was the first major hurdle to get over, the fact that it wasn't going to be a pageant about Henry, but a play about a community under stress. I formed a local research group consisting of 4 people, a local historian in particular, Keith Kissack, who amongst the others gave me all the material I needed, and they were very forthcoming, and I had everything I needed to write the play. And I got a historical framework, and from that I began to create the characters. I mean, there were 50 speaking parts. It was a huge writing, project, and I had to fulfill the needs of the town, at the same time write something about something which I was interested in, and provide in it enough for people to do all the time. So I chose to have elements of dance, elements of crowd work and procession work, as well as intimate scenes between characters. Can I ask other people not in the scene to be quiet throughout? Yes, that'd be great.
This is trusted. I reckon on 50 rebels from this town, and I expect most of them are now working on shipping in need. I'm no different. And as for Mary, I'll not trouble her. Time has passed, Mrs. Thompson. I'm glad to see you well.
We told you to be clear of this right lady.
She needs help.
No own kind can help her.
Come on, Mary. I'll take you by force if needs be.
Is this the war you dreamed of, brother?
Mary, please.
The plough's broken. You, Philip Dyer, mender of ploughs.
I not made it.
No.
You've no business here, Mary. Go home. I will not argue.
I know, Father, because you're a good man. You know what good is.
She's gone a little mad, I reckon.
Okay, let's try and get to the top. That's good. Just that point, Nicholas, when they're going to, she says, well, of course you do. And they're just moving towards each other.
Bordertown is directed by Jamie Garvin.
The play is set between 1400 and 1413. And it's not so much about Henry V as it is about the people of Monmouth at that time. Those were the years of the Welsh-English Wars. In 1400, both Owen Glyndŵr and Henry V were declared Prince of Wales by their respective sides. Henry was still really a very young man. He was in his teens. Owain was a nobleman, much older. I think he was in his 40s. Those figures are represented at the beginning of the play, and that is the essential conflict that pulls the people of the town apart. The Welsh are then persecuted, and winter descends upon the town in more ways than one. You have the actual season itself, but you also have the blight of the war, killing off the market, raising enmity between previously friendly families. We focus on one family, the Howells, who are Welsh, one family, the Troxteds, who are English, and we follow their story through the 4 acts of the play, the 4 seasons, which are spread over 13 years. And the Troxteds, the English family, rise to prominence and success and wealth and begin to own land that previously belonged to other people. They begin to accrue that wealth and power. And the Howells, their fortunes decline. The father dies, the mother farms on her own. The son leaves Monmouth to join Glyndŵr. The pith of the story is supplied by the fact that Thomas ap Howell, the son, who joins Glendower, at the beginning of the play is in love with Mary Troxted. And rather like Romeo and Juliet, we see that relationship being destroyed by the political and external pressures. I don't think that's romanticised particularly. Thomas ap Howell is not the nicest of men, and Mary's a particularly stubborn girl. But I think that story is probably quite moving. Eventually she's left with a child that she raises on her own and is cast out of the town because of it. So the story has got a very personal level to it, and it's also got these political and social ramifications. It's not particularly a period piece. It's set at that time between 1400 and 1413, but Charlie is using that to introduce and discuss themes that are perennial and which happen today. I mean, it's about, if you want issues, then it's about racialism, prejudice, about people's ordinary lives being controlled by larger concepts that are really nothing to do with them. Somehow or other we get all muddled up and we allow our lives to be disrupted. And the audience watches that happen.
No. The fight will never come down this far. The Welsh rebel from time to time. 'Tis a long-standing madness.
You underestimate them.
I doubt that very much. Look at the Welsh in London.
I agree with Mr. Jolley.
There's free air outside who talks all you're after.
I heard a rumour in Shrewsbury that the king intends to send his son to fight Glendower. An apprenticeship, if you like.
I doubt that very much. The prince is too young.
I was 14 on my first campaign, same age as him.
Aye, but he's visiting light with a drone. And it don't work, he's ended up dead in the ditch.
I'll wager that the prince is serving in the marches by spring.
I don't gamble with soldiers. Let debts die with them.
Not me, Philip Scudamore, a genuine survivor.
In that sense, it's quite downbeat. It's quite a sad story, and it's quite a sad, somber play. I don't think that's a problem, because I think it was always the intention that the celebration, the uplifting side of it, comes from watching these people do it. You're watching the people of the town in 1987 perform a story about the people of the town in the years 1400 to 1413, and that in itself should be quite uplifting and quite moving if they do it well. I think the great thing about work that involves people whom are not professionals is that you see the struggle, you sense the struggle, and the struggle is part of the work.
music for the play was composed by Phil Thomas.
The music, I suppose, is really me. But I did quite a lot of research before I started writing it. I looked a lot at medieval dance music, such as Survives, and medieval choral music, which I was interested in anyway. And it's very interesting that there's no such concept as harmony in the Middle Ages. They don't build things vertically as we do. They built things horizontally. They were just tunes, and they were progressively elaborated. If you wanted to develop things, you added a few more ornaments, or you sang it at a different pitch, or other people sang it, or you changed the instrumentation of it. At least this is what we think. So that's the sort of thing I've done. I've tried to invent tunes that are capable of a lot of elaborate ornamentation if they need developing. But there's also bound to be a lot of me knocking around in it, or there isn't, I don't think, any point in employing a composer. And you have to tread a very delicate balance in the music between making it difficult and adventurous in a way that will still tempt them to want to do something they wouldn't otherwise do, but not making it so difficult and so adventurous that they're going to dismiss it as being in some way avant-garde and feel it isn't for them, or feel intimidated by it, so they don't want to take part. And you just hope you get it right, really.
So listen to it again, sopranos and tenors. 1. Cannot for the children lest they die. 1, 2, 3. Very solidly like that. It's extremely serious. And the orchestra will be doubling it right up here in the stratosphere. Okay, lower part. This is what you do under those same phrases. You stay on the note you finished on before, which is nice for you, isn't it? You've just gone over.
The instrumental resources are brought together in a much more complicated way because some of them are children who are still at school, some of them are adults who do other jobs. It's very hard to organise a time when you have to get them all together. But you can't rehearse an orchestra in bits because an essential component of it is the ensemble, is being able to play together with such familiarity that the chords are all in tune. And that's not such an innocent thing as it seems. It sounds almost a silly remark. but in fact ensemble is the hardest thing for an orchestra to achieve. Gothic churches are very good for music and on the whole very bad for speaking. But they're not as bad as classical churches. If we had a place with a dome, we'd have even more problems both for me and for the actors. I think for quiet music, or music of a very atmospheric nature, churches are extremely good. They're very supportive. For the louder stuff, they can be very difficult. I ought to answer the phone. Come on.
Responsible for transforming St Mary's Church into the medieval world of Bordertown is designer Richard Aylwin. Removing the pews and erecting scaffolding is the first step. Movable towers on wheels are being constructed to be pushed in and out as required, a common medieval theatrical device. The action will take place above the level of the audience, who will promenade below. It is a design that will exploit the cavernous interior of the church, with stars suspended in the roof, capturing the simple vision of the universe that a medieval audience would have had. In the world of Bordertown, heaven is as much a reality as the earth. And what of the costumes? For actors, choir and orchestra, 250 costumes are to be made. For this purpose, large quantities of fabric are collected from the community and brought here to the project office at Glendower Street. The supervisor is Helena Williams.
Right, how we make the costumes really, if I show you a finished costume, you can see in there that there's different panels, different colours and materials, different textures. And that is basically a brown or shades of brown because it's all been dipped in brown dye. And to get to that stage, what we've done is made large sheets of different patterns and different textures and material. Say if we took this one here now and tried to keep to, say, a range of pinks and purples, lay them over into a large patchwork, and these go out then to the community to be sewn up, just sort of overlapping them to form a big quilt. And then they come back in and they're dyed, and say this one for example, this would be dyed in a red or a purple, so that it's sort of sympathetic to the colours that we've got. Once it's dyed, we then lay it out and cut out all the patterns to make up each principal's costume, which consists of tunics, tabards, wraps, cloaks, snoods, cowls, to get this kind of effect here.
Here's another pale one.
Oh, and some more of this
Lining.
yeah, useful for, you know. Oh, it's still got the tapes on it. You can tie it to something now. To your Liberty bodice.
I didn't wear Liberty bodices.
They wore the next best thing, you know. Ah, corsets. No. That's what they used to tie their tights to. They're hosed.
You're recording as well.
It's not working, is it?
The pound of saltpeter, do you? Oh, yes. Plenty more where it came from.
Look at these. That must be for a pantomime. I can't be serious, can it?
It looks a bit like
My auntie doing it.
Aladdin.
Top girl.
It looks like
Aladdin.
Aladdin. That's
Yeah.
it. That's it.
Well, hang on. Oh, this is great for working outdoors, eh? Oh, put it in your pocket. Well, hang on.
We don't mind you being pregnant as long as you keep it at that, you know what I mean? Don't, for God's sake, go into labour and we've got to get
Oh, it'd be brilliant, wouldn't it? You can really upstage everybody.
Really intelligent, really, really clever. What do you do if you're really, really? Yes, go. Really intelligent. Say hello, shake hands with people. Really, really worried. Really worried. Worried, you're worried. You're more worried than that. You're really very worried indeed. You've just heard terrible, terrible news. What's the worst thing you could hear about? Yes, you just think that's about to happen. Like that. Use the whole room, spread out the room. Okay, I want you to meet one of, keep being really worried, meet someone, try and pretend to be normal. Pretend to be normal. You're going to say hello to them, you're meeting them in the street. You're covering up the fact that you're really worried. Have a conversation with someone. Who was that? Freeze. This boy's a lunatic. Okay, walk again. Walk again. Angry. Happy. Worried. Old. Old. Happy. Old and happy. Old and happy. Old and happy at the same time. You're old and you're happy. Old and worried. Old and worried. Old and worried about something. Think of something that you're worried about. That would worry you.
I'll not haggle over my daughter. Come away from us. I'm sorry. Good day.
The play has changed its shape depending on who comes in. We've got a team of about 10 teenage girls who we've adapted the play for so that they take the parts of all the symbolic roles. When I first wrote the play, I didn't think that Henry V and O Englander would be played by teenage girls. But we found a way of doing that, which is much more exciting than having just someone standing up and saying the lines.
And change of position. Change of position. And archway. Avenue. Crouch. Steps. Center stage, circle. Circle, move clockwise, archway. Crouch, step. Change of position. Change of position, but make sure you face out towards the audience. And line completely flat.
Oh, why, he loved his mother. She died in childbirth. And he hit the boy hard. Got to Scotland enough.
How long did you nurse him?
Why all these questions? Nobody's ever asked before.
He's famous, Mrs. Waring.
Aye, and what for? Drinking in the East End of London. That's all I hear.
If he becomes King of England...
Oh, if he survives.
He'll be remembered.
I can't see what comfort there is in that.
Why not? I will be remembered, nor me. I'm nobody, nothing. Don't really matter if I'm good or bad. I'll disappear. Us all will, except you.
It's a great idea.
That's lovely, I love
That's
it.
very...
Come on, don't let it go over here. That's the way you can't get off. Come on, still.
Good afternoon. We are weary travellers in need of sustenance.
Or food.
What manner of celebration have we stumbled upon?
A wedding.
My blessing!
What do we want?
Aye, what do you like?
We've had spies from Tangapore now, and bought the villains drinks. Wouldn't surprise me if they dressed like churchmen.
You must forgive us, sir. We must be careful in time and place.
Sorry, I have your book for my video. Sorry. I thought you did it.
Start it again. Start again.
My fault.
Dressing the set uses the same fabrics and colours that go to make the costumes. By using natural colours such as green, brown and gold, Richard hopes to create a relationship between the real world of Monmouth and the surrounding forest and the model world created inside the church.
That's 14 and a half. Right, well, this has got to have
How have worshippers reacted to the disruption?
All change is very difficult to accept, especially with something with which you are very familiar and which is impregnated with one's memories and prayers and associations. But most people who've expressed initial surprise and disturbance at the Bordertown happening, I believe, are now in favour of it as they see the amount of goodwill and enthusiasm and energy generated by the play, and as they take part actually in the worship of the church on Sunday as it is now reordered. I find it a very exciting project, just seeing so many different people in church and seeing the church used in a very different way. And I also find that worshipping in this way has a very releasing effect on the congregation.
I crown you.
Hang on. You might need a bit of oh, wow.
Great. That's brilliant.
That is incredible. I think that works really well.
That's excellent. Is this the first time you've been down?
Easy,
I've done. The droopy eyelids.
Hey, yours look nice.
It must be on the back with the cup.
most rewarding part will be if it's good, I think, in the end. The satisfaction of that and seeing them achieve will be terribly good. I mean, it's easy to say the rewarding side is when people say to you, oh, you've brought me out, or I've enjoyed this, or I'm enjoying it so much, or I'm getting this out of it. And that is rewarding. But I think ultimately it's a combination of knowing that what they do is good and seeing that and getting that satisfaction, because it's my work too. It's a combination of that and enjoying them, because you get to like the cast more and more as it goes on, inevitably, unless it's a disaster you do. I can't imagine not getting to like them and not getting to have a feeling for when they're succeeding or failing. So it's somewhere in there, I think. It's when they do something well, you're pleased for them, you really enjoy it with them. That's quite rewarding.